abuse of technologies. As technology evolve, become more sophisticated, the modus operandi of the financial crime also becoming more sophisticated. That include the aspect that you mentioned just now when you talk about monitoring transaction, looking at records and all that. Now is no more paper records. Now is all about technology, and the record you're talking about will be records related technology. And today you hear about virtual assets, bitcoins and all that. Those are very recent type of records that also relates to financial activity and subject to abuse. Secondly, abuse of financial system, using of bank accounts, using and acting as mule account holders to allow criminal to have access to financial facilities. Some of these mule account holders, they're doing it either indirectly or unwittingly, or they're doing it as part of the service provided to the criminal, where they got monthly income. For some, quite handsome income they're getting every month. One account they will be able to earn about between 1,000 to 3,000 ringgit on monthly basis. So these are among the cases that we've seen. Other than that would be international nature of fraud cases. This is cross-border transnational crime. That poses a greater challenge for domestic and cross-jurisdiction coordination. As you can see, fraud today is no longer localized. It's become global and local, and that makes investigation in particular very challenging. And similarly, you talk about recording, you talk about being ethical, you talk about monitoring and policing. This factor pose further challenge to the activity of accountant to carry out their role to be an ethical and accountable accountant. So on the graphic, as you can see, these are that would give you a sense. In short, this phenomenon is continuing. In our case, even during our time as a student, we already see this, but the modus operandi are changing, are evolving. Okay, I forgot to mention just now, together with me, I have two colleagues from my department, namely Ms. Amarjit and Mr. Sharafi joining me. So in particular, these materials are prepared by them. So I have to give credit to them as well. So two my team members joining me today. All right, I would like to zoom now into what is meant by money laundering. So, as you can see in the key message at the top, what is put here, money laundering is the process of making illegally gained proceed appear illegal. I think this is a simple way of describing what money laundering is. The term laundering is by itself self-reflective. In common word, we mention cuci ataupun cuci baju ataupun dobi. That basically reflect the fact that money laundering is referring to the activity of trying to make illegal proceed or dirty proceed to make clean. So why they want to do this? Because they want to convert, they want to conceal, and they want to create a legitimate explanation to the source and make it further distance from the criminal activity. And why is this important? This will make our work as the authority to detect and relate the criminal with the illegal proceeds becoming more difficult. So in short, they want to make it more complex. And how they are doing it? 3 processes. First, through placement, second, through layering, and third, through integration. So when they want to place, when they have a lot of money, say I get a proceed from corruption activities, and one of the safest place to put the money is to put in the bank. But putting in the bank can be a problem as well, because now bank asks a lot of questions about the source of money and all that. For the purpose of disguising the source of the money, I need to put some layering. I would create multiple fund transfer to express or to show that as if there is active business activities. I will also request probably my accountant to help me creating a couple of invoices, another transaction justification to layer my illegal activity and to justify the heavy transaction via fake document, so on and so forth. And eventually, as I managed to surpass these 2 process, I would like now to integrate with the normal economy, because the appearance become more legal now. I would like to use it for the purpose of investing in some legitimate activities, invest in properties, purchase luxury goods, and so on. As it reaches the level of integration, normally is quite challenging for us to connect with the first layer. It could be, depending how complex the layering process is. Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay, so the question is, how do we safeguard the country from being abused? How do we safeguard our system from being abused by the criminal? So we are guided by the international standard. In particularly, if you can Google, if you Google FATF, FATF, the one here in the middle. FATF refers to Financial Action Task Force. So if you Google Financial Action Task Force, it will direct you to the website. This is the international body created by the G20 countries to set a standard as to what country need to apply in deterring and detecting money laundering activities. So in summary, there are 4 key components required for the country to have in place. First being is the legal framework. The second one is domestic and international coordination. Third one is preventive measures. And the fourth one is combative measures. The first one is legal framework. I think for those who have looked into the link that I've shared this morning, you'll be able to see a specific act in this regard, which is anti-money laundering, anti-terrorist financing, and proceeds of unlawful activities. In short, we call it AMLA, the one in the yellow box. This act is applied by various law enforcement agencies because this act provide in the list offences under various law enforcement agency, which enable various enforcement agency, for example, police, SPRM, or anti-corruption agencies, customs, to apply Anti-Money Laundering Act for their purpose. And how do they apply? 2 ways. One, when a person commit corruption, for example, if I commit corruption, I would be investigated for corruption activities under Anti-Corruption Act. If I have a proceed out of that corruption and I launder that proceed in accordance to the 3 process that I mentioned just now, I commit offence under AMLA ataupun Anti-Money Laundering Act. So 2 offence committed here. One, taking bribes. Second, dealing with the illegal proceed and trying my best to disguise the proceed. That would be another offence under this act. So if you commit commercial crime or financial crime, this is the repercussion. You can be charged under the Serious Offence Act, and you can be charged under the UMRA. Okay. The Act also provide authority like us to undertake audit or supervisory activities or action, and the Act also provide for certain reporting institution like accountant to be listed in the first schedule and to be imposed an obligation for them to undertake necessary measures to prevent their institution from being abused. So in particular, the Act has a provision in regards to competent authority, an authority that is responsible to ensure that this Act is implemented effectively, and Ministry of Finance has appointed Bank Negara Malaysia as the competent authority, as you can see in the slide. Okay. Secondly, domestic and international cooperation. In short, at domestic level, we have a national coordination committee to counter money laundering, and this committee have a specific subcommittee as well as a working group together 16 ministries and agencies to decide and to ensure effective implementation of the Act. This include formulation of policy as well as implementation of strategy. At the international level, we have various collaboration in the form of memorandum of understanding, as well as a few other strategic partnership with specific foreign countries, as well as international and regional bodies. The third one, the preventive measures. Disease reporting institution is viewed at the number one. I mentioned about the Act provide a list of institutions that is obliged to perform certain obligation under the Act. To date, we have more than 22,000 reporting institutions. Among others, they are required to implement effective anti-money laundering and counter-financing compliance program within their institution, and they are required to detect and deter money laundering through this program. This include the obligation to submit suspicious transaction report to us, or cash threshold reports. Any cash transaction above certain threshold need to be reported to Bank Negara. So I pointed about the RI study, reporting institution. One of the sector included in this reporting institutions group are the accountants. So if you become accountant later, automatically this obligation are imposed on you. All right. So number 4, we talk much about the legal framework. We talk much about coordination. We talk much about preventive measures, and finally is the combative measures. And here we're talking about intelligence and enforcement. So intelligence, what Dr. Zamri mentioned now, it's not about being an intelligence person with intelligence mind. Is very much about surveillance, in the context of surveillance. So in BM we mentioned that as risikan. So in the country, there's one function created in the central bank called Financial Intelligence Unit. This is the unit that receives the reports from reporting institution, and that unit resides in my department. And this unit support financial investigation, where it provides financial intelligence to allow financial investigation to be conducted in more efficient and targeted manner. Okay, and for the purpose of effective investigation, law enforcement agency, I mentioned just now, law enforcement agencies are able to apply AMLA in their course of investigation. In respective law enforcement agencies, they have also set up their own department or unit that is responsible in undertaking financial investigation, including money laundering investigation. This is complemented by structured training program for financial investigators. Okay. Any intervention or any question? No?
Is it FIU? No.
Could you speak a bit louder?
Sorry. Is it FIU and LEA is under BNM?
No.
BNM. It's independent.
Only FIU under BNM. Okay. So your question is FIU and LEA is under BNM, or whether FIU is independent entities? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So FIU and LAS are two different things. LAS is law enforcement agencies. I am referring to agencies like police, anti-corruption agencies, commission, custom, and so on. So those are agencies. FIU, yes, it resides in Bank Negara Malaysia, and within its function or structure, and as well as governance, there are elements of independencies in carrying out its roles under the Act. Okay? I hope I answered the question. Okay, let me move on further.
Sorry, just share for kejap.
Yes.
You mentioning the other 22,000 reporting institution tadi kan?
Yep.
Banyak tu. Because we know only probably if we are talking to student, probably diingat bank saja ataupun financial institution saja. So can you just give some sense government agency ke?
Okay. So two component. One is financial institution. Second is non-financial institution. So financial institution, I think that's quite clear. The one that add to the number a lot is the non-financial institution. So non-financial institution include professions. The one that contribute most to the number are basically the professions that include accountants, lawyers, also included casinos, jewelers, for example, asset agency, asset valuer, and agency. So those are the point where money laundering activities is possible.
Okay, alright, okay, clear.
So because the imposition of the obligation to based on the profession.
Sorry, so Tuan Fuad.
Yes.
So meaning they have to report on like monthly basis, or is it as an on? How is the reporting is actually been doing by all these institution?
Okay. So two type of obligation. One is suspicious transaction report. That is case by case. Anything suspicious based on the red flag that we provide, they are required to report promptly to us. Secondly, based on the cash threshold, anything above a specific amount that we specify, and promptly they need to report to us. So for now, this is applied, the cash threshold reporting is applied to certain sector only. Financial institution is one of the first sector that we impose, not for accounting sector. Okay.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much.
Okay, so move further, moving on, this is zooming specific to the obligation that I pointed out just now. Relevant laws, rules and regulations that are applicable to the accounting sector. The first, to put in the context, if you look on the right side of the slide, these are the context of the imposition. When the accountants or the accounting firm involved in these gazetted activities, buy and sell immovable properties, manage client money, securities or other properties, manage account including savings and security accounts, organize contribution for creation or operation of management of companies, or creating or operating or managing legal
Fuad, your mic is mute.
Okay, sorry. So what was the last point tadi?
Skip 5 Encik Fuad.
Okay, jawapan kepada soalan dengar kan?
Yes.
You're muted again Encik Fuad.
Okay, as I flash the slide, it become on mute. I would like to try again. Am I muted?
Okay, bagus. Okay, dengar.
No.
Okay. Okay. So on this slide, if you look at the right, the gazetted activities are the context as to why accounting sectors are included in the regulatory net. The gazette activities basically specify the kind of activities that require accountant to fulfill the obligation. When they buy and sell immovable properties, when they manage clients' money, securities of properties, when they manage accounts, when they organize contribution for creation or operation or management of companies, or when they create, operate or manage legal entities or arrangement, as well as when they assist the customers to buy and sell business entities. When they are involved in this kind of activities, the obligation that I pointed out just now are applicable, and all those obligations are spelled out under the instrument that you can see on the left. The first one are the Act itself. The first one is the Act itself, and the second one, further requirement and obligation are stipulated in the policy documents. As you can see, the anti-money laundering, countering financial terrorism and targeted financial sanction for designated non-financial business professions and non-bank financial institution. So these are basically the instrument. But I think the key point is that on the right, those are the gazetted activities. When accountant involved in these activities, the obligation is applicable onto them. And what are the obligations? All right. Ultimately, the component that I mentioned just now, the measures that we put in place, ultimately the purpose and the motive is meant to suppress the criminal benefit. And in suppressing the criminal benefit, two things are important. One is detection and second is deterrence. for the purpose of undertaking the detection and deterrence function, these are the obligations that are imposed on reporting institution, including accountant. As you can see from the left, the requirement include for institution to have a compliant function, having policies, procedures, spell out specific accountability on the board and senior management. This is in particular the role of oversight, employee screening, training, independent audit function, customer due diligence, know your customer, enhance due diligence for higher risk customer, conduct screening for any entities listed as involved in the terrorism financing or proliferation of weapon of mass destruction like North Korea, Iran, all that. Undertake risk profiling for the customers and performing obligation to report suspicious transaction, and finally to have a proper management information system or record keeping system in place. So these are the list of obligations that I was mentioning just now, and all these are stipulated in the relevant policy document. So this is very much the illustration as to how the mechanism works. I mentioned just now about the reporting obligation. So the reporting institution, as you can see on the left, these are the component for the 22,000 entities. The list start from banking institution down to various other industries, including accountants under designated non-financial business profession or the NFBPs. So as this institution carry out the role and submit suspicious transaction report to Financial Intelligence and Enforcement Department, our department will conduct analysis and analysis on the information that we receive, and then we will disclose the intelligence, the financial intelligence, to the law enforcement agencies for them to undertake necessary action, either criminal or supervisory action. We are also given the authority to disclose information to the foreign counterpart that we have a specific arrangement, as I explained earlier. And in brief, the implementation by reporting institution, in particular, it goes back to what I mentioned just now, the detection and the deterrence. The detection bit, as you can see on the left, it is incumbent on institution to examine and observe any red flags in the transaction that they are managing through the customer due diligence to due diligence process. Any indication of involvement directly or indirectly with criminal or serious crime activities, and the red flag is indicator for them to establish certain alert, whether the gravity as well as the nature of the transaction, and to assess the element accordingly through various circumstances, as you can see in the slide. It could be willfully blind, it would be being corrupted, or it would be complicit. So to put in short, just now in the earlier part of our presentation, I posed a question of on the role of accountant in combating financial crime. So when I reiterate this to Ali just now, I emphasize that we would like to hear about accountant assisting in combating financial crime, not committing in financial crime. So that basically reflect that in the real world, we do see accountant being involved either directly or indirectly in facilitating financial crime activities. where advice that they provide is basically advice that assist or facilitate a criminal to layer further their transactions. And in that sense, under the Act, accountant may be guilty of third-party money laundering as well, or rather abetment. So these are among the key components that relates to detection and deterrence. Important for the institution to identify the red flag, important for the institution to robustly assess the nature of the red flag, and that will surface further knowledge on the criminality of the potential money laundering activities that is happening within their institution. Website, you will find this kind of information, these papers, information or rather papers in regards to vulnerabilities of accounting services, and these are 5 areas that relates to the gazetted areas that I pointed out just now. The role of accountant in relation to financial and tax advice, where criminal may pose as individuals seeking advice from accountant to place their illegal proceeds or asset and to disguise the dirty nature of the proceeds. Secondly, a criminal may also attempt to disguise or to cut the link between proceed of crime as well as the criminal activities through formation of corporate vehicles or other complex arrangements, and these are among the services that they acquire from accountants. The third one I mentioned also just now, use of property transfers to cover for illegal funds. This is the part that relates to the layering activities as well as the integration activities to further disguise and distance the illegal proceed. Fourth, act as a nominee. Use of nominee shareholders to obscure ownership of the assets. This is very much having other person to be the proxy of the criminal, again to disguise the identity of the mastermind. Finally, performing financial transaction. Use of accountant to carry out or facilitate various financial transactions on behalf of the criminal. Okay, so that is basically the last slide for my presentation. These are among the link that you can refer to. These are basically the quick reference that we provide for public view, and there are also a video that will give you illustration about suspicious transaction report obligation as well as on the red flags that I mentioned just now. So I stop now on the slide presentation. As I mentioned, this is my final slide, and I will now open for question and answers, if any. Please.
May I ask on the cryptocurrency?
Yes.
The evolution of cryptocurrency, is that increase more opportunities for money laundering, or what are the central bank comments on that? How the actions the bank negara?
In short, the answer is yes. This is the latest trend, and the appetite to abuse or to use virtual currency or other to acquire virtual assets is because they are more anonymous as compared to other methods. So the anonymity is basically the attraction for criminal to use virtual assets. And this trend is, I must say, is rising. So in this regards, there are few papers being produced by FATF as well as regional body that discuss about the vulnerabilities, the exposure, as well as the best practice in this regard. The next question is, what do we do? In particular, Bank Negara, we also impose similar obligation for virtual asset operator that are registered in the country. They have to comply with similar obligation I mentioned just now in regards to anti-money laundering and counter-financing terrorism. In terms of regulatory aspect, the registration and other requirement that is under the purview of Securities Commission. So in general, the regulatory framework is applied. The application of regulatory requirement is under the purview of Securities Commission. The obligation to undertake obligation under Anti-Money Laundering Act that is imposed by us, Bank Negara. So virtual assets, I think in the country, the one that are registered are not many. I think what pose challenge are those are not registered ataupun yang scam. They claim themselves offering investment in virtual assets, but essentially there's no virtual asset activity happening. It's just a front, and what people see in the screen, some kind of activities that indicate as if there's virtual assets activities happening, fake software. Those are the case that we normally see lah, in terms of the vulnerabilities. So kebanyakannya scam, not actual virtual assets. Any other questions?
Go ahead, Aga. If you have any question, or you can put in the chat room, if for whatever reasons you may have internet connection.
Assalamualaikum.
What is the role of... Hello.
Hello. Could you introduce your name first?
Oh, my name is Amira. Sorry.
Amira. Okay. I have Amira and Alim. Alim will be next.
So I will ask regarding the 1MDB keys. So what is the role of BNM regarding the 1MDB keys?
Okay. The role is basically the same as I explained just now. So our role as a regulatory authority are basically apart from receiving information from the institution, we also support financial investigation by sharing or disclosing financial intelligence to law enforcement agencies. So we are not the investigator to the case in particular. As you can see from open sources, those cases are investigated by the police as well as Anti-Corruption Commission. Our role is very much supporting their investigation, financial investigation, as well as addressing issues at our financial institution, if any. Should there be indication of abuse in our financial institution, that's the part that we have a role in undertaking necessary action. Okay.
Assalamualaikum, Tuan Fuad.
Yes, Salim.
I have two questions. The first question is that, could you say that some people do not report any money laundering if they know, because they were paid or they were scared? So is there any protection program for those who report? And the second question is, what is the requirement or skills us to join the Financial Intelligence and Enforcement Department of Bank Negara?
Okay, for the first question, the first is the legal aspect. If you look at the law provides specific protection for any party that provide information to the authority for the purpose provided under the law. So there's a legal provision specifically that provide protection for parties that are obliged to undertake the reporting obligation. The second part is on the mechanics of reporting. We provide specific mechanics of reporting that also take into consideration the need to have a secure environment within the channel. So for financial institution, for example, the reporting is undertaken via secured system transmitted to our system. For other sector, they have two options, either through the system or rather through the specific form that we provide. There are certain features of security that we put in place to prevent anything from happening. To the extent that even the format of the form is designed with unique features. In case if the form drop in transmission, no one can specifically direct that information coming from any particular party. So those are among the mechanics that we put in place. The third one, should there be really any threat, again the first protection will apply, the legal protection, and that would require involvement of law enforcement lah kalau any worst case scenario. So far, alhamdulillah, through these two mechanics, it works well thus far. Okay. Secondly, joining Bank Negara or FID in particular. So joining Bank Negara, there are specific criteria. First, the academic qualification. And then secondly, the expertise lah. For me particularly, when it comes to competency in the department, what unique about this department is we have people of diverse background. We have people with accounting background, we have people with legal background, we have people with mathematics background, we have people with engineering background, diverse. So the gist is what value proposition that you have that you can contribute to our function. And I hope that answer the question lah, Alim.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mariam.
Okay, I have a question. There are some news that I read about this bank that accepting investment or money laundering from other people, but they are still accepting the money laundering because they think they will get higher profit. Even they were caught by AMLA or any authority anti-corruption. So my question is how far that the act or the authority can give penalty or something like that to the bank who accept the money laundering activity.
Okay, if I put in short, you're talking about bank facilitating money laundering activities, and in short, they feel that the crime pay because they make a lot of money out of it, but the amount that they pay for penalty probably much lesser than the profit they're making. Betul? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So I think if you look at news in developed countries as well as in Malaysia as well, we and few other authorities, they do impose a significant amount of money when you talk about monetary penalties lah. But in essence, when the bank get involved in these illegal activities, monetary is not the only repercussion that they need to take into consideration. There's other bigger factors that would severely affect the institution is the reputational risk to the institution that would affect the business in a strategic term. For example, international financial community, for example, when they want to deal with our institution, or rather if they want to invest in the country, they will look at the level of compliance of the country to the international standard. If they get specific news that one specific bank in the countries is not in compliance or involved in serious or severe breach of international, the bank will have difficulty to undertake correspondent banking, for example. The bank will have difficulty to get investment from other parties, and that will affect the business in the longer run. So, so going back to your question, what do we do in the context of our role as an authority? We are able to undertake supervisory action, and we have done that. We have and able to undertake monetary penalty. We also have done that. We are able to also impose certain requirement through certain regulatory instrument, asking the bank to undertake certain measures or establish a certain program, or rather invest in certain development program to improve or to address issues that they have in place. So those are the instruments that we've been using to address so-called a bad bank, or rather the bank that intend to work or in cohort with the criminal. So far, alhamdulillah, in the context of Malaysia, we have not seen this trend happening here.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Chief Wan. My name is Amar. I want to ask one question. If someone is found guilty on the money laundering, so what will happen to the money involved in the cases?
Okay. The money can be forfeited to the government. The Act provides for the money, or rather the property, or the asset, to be forfeited to the government.
Meaning that, for example, in the case of Macau scam, so all of the victim of the Macau scam will not get the money back, right?
In short, my short answer to that, no. Because in the first place, when you invest in illegal scheme, you are indirectly abetting with the illegal activities. So essentially, you are also committing a crime. Essentially, yeah. But there are certain cases where the court apply variation or apply certain discretion, where the court do decide for certain amount of money to be returned to the investors. But that is very much depending on the decision of the court at the end of the day. But if you get yourself involved in illegal activities, by default, you cannot get back your money.
Okay, understand.
And yeah, I think another one that I want to reiterate is you in a way also abetting with this illegal scheme. So be very super careful when people invite you to invest in anything. And thank you for asking this as well, Amar. I think because this scam activities of fraud, they're seasonal. I think past recent years, 1 year ago or 2 years ago, we have seen a trend where they allow the student to get involved in these illegal investment scheme activities by promoting to the student that this is an early stage of exposure before you get involved in bigger investment activities. So they go to the student and offer the student to invest in small amount of cash, and promote to them that this is a good exposure for you to try out. But from the context of a facilitator, as they are able to invite many students, they got the consolidated fund will be a lot lah. They also we know about students become agent, tolong promote, cari kawan, find another friends, get commission and so on. So that even make yourself becoming more direct party to the syndicate, and again there is also an offence under AMLA.
So dia Pak Mantelo, Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme, dia ada dua offence. Satu, one is offence under the Financial Services Act, that is illegal deposit taking.
Alright, okay.
And then the proceeds that they're dealing with the proceed is an offence under AMLA. So dua offence they commit in parallel. So if you look at the news, for example, when we or police charge anyone with illegal deposit taking, normally the person also will be charged for laundering illegal proceeds. And when the court mentioned about the charge, you can see certain people being charged for 1,000, having 1,000 charges on money laundering, 900,000 on money laundering, because the offence is about dealing with the illegal proceeds. So if I have like 1 million in my account from illegal proceeds, then I transfer to 10 account, that make me commit 10 breach under the AMLA. I can be charged. I can be imposed with 10 charges for that. So imagine if I'm doing that for a period of 1 or 2 years, that could expose myself to so many hundred charges for money laundering, and that would make my opportunity to win the case smaller or become more thinner. So it's very suppressive, I must say, for AMLA when it comes to addressing people dealing with illegal proceeds. So the idea is simple. First, I can be charged for committing corruption, didapati bersalah sebab commit corruption. Second, wherever proceed that I generate from that corruption activities will also be suppressed and forfeited to the government. So what is left for me is nothing. That's what I meant by suppressing criminal benefit. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, brother.
Dali, stay.
Okay. We got forensic accounting. Forensic accounting. How does one go about becoming an accountant in this area, especially after graduating? What is the path that one should do?
Okay. In short, I must say that when you talk about forensic accounting, it's still about auditing, but the level of robustness as well as the focus is in a way inclines towards investigative auditing. So if I can give you an example, forensic accounting would allow authorities like us to undertake net worth analysis. I get to know that you, for example, Ali, right? So if I get to know you, Ali, undertaking certain illegal activities, probably I have difficulty to find hard evidence to link you with the criminal activities because of the layering just now. There's another avenue for me to do that is to undertake net worth analysis, to look at what you have now and to assess how do you build your wealth or business from the very beginning. So forensic accounting would allow me to reflect that and able to backtrack what have you built and where are the source coming from. So if you're sourcing your business from genuine business, the trail will go to the genuine business. But if you are not able to, if your source is illegal activities, and that is undertaken via improper recording, fake invoices, documents, and so on, that would surface separately, differently, if we undertake forensic accounting. So I know certain universities, they do offer specific courses in forensic accounting. Not sure, but I am now. But in the past, we used to engage with UiTM, which I think their faculty provide specific course on forensic accounting. Hope that answers, Ali.
Yes, it answers. But can I go with my current, let's say, degree? Will I be able to work to land a position in forensic?
Obviously, yeah. I think that's the fundamental. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, any more question? Probably what, 1 or 2 more? 4:40 already.
Hi.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
hello.
Right. So this is a question to Chief Wan. How does BNM stay like ahead of its game in terms of always how like technology is always developing, people are always finding new ways of going through things. I mean, going through those loopholes and using those technologies or virtual assets like you mentioned. How does BNM like stay ahead in terms of technology?
Thank you. I think that's a good and very relevant question. I think my quick answer to that is to undertake digital transformation and get ourselves at par with the development when it comes to technology. So digital transformation is something that is ongoing in Negara in general, in particular for mandate in regards to our department. Apart from undertaking digital transformation program, we have also established a unit that provide a pool of data scientists. So we our own digital transformation framework. We develop our own data scientists. We even develop our own forensic expertise within our organization. So that's basically specific initiatives that will make sure that we are at least at par with what is happening in the environment, and to make sure that we are, as you pointed out just now, stay ahead of the game. Within the digital scientist function, together with digital scientist function, we also have a function that we call macro analysis. Macro analysis is the function that look at the macro aspect of the data that we have, that include foreseeing what will be happening, looking at what is coming. For example, looking at what is happening in the region, because what would happen in the region would normally come to our country, just a matter of sooner or later. So these are among the key components that we put in place to make sure that we are staying ahead of the game, and make sure we will be able to always be aware of what is coming on. Okay, hope that answers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Probably one more question. I think in relation to your, I think at least we know that Bangara has data scientists in this case. One of the assessment of the student here is doing what we call this data analytics. The accounting student, the auditing student taking this subject as well. So therefore, we were talking about you mentioning about the predictive ability, the ability to look into, what's going to happen. I think that's the data scientist, data analytic that's being introduced to the student. Okay, at least they are in the know. I think that's also the reason why our brother Adham is asking. Okay, one more. Inshallah, one more question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I ask, what are the
Siapa
expectation
ni?
from side?
Maisara.
Maisara.
Alright, okay, go ahead.
What is Bank Negara Malaysia expectations from auditing perspective in combat these money laundering activities?
Oh, okay.
What is the expectation of Bank Negara from in auditing perspective?
Towards the auditing profession itself, probably. Encik Fuad.
Okay, so I think it goes back to what I mentioned just now lah. If you recall, I keep stressing point on detections and deterrence. Detection and deterrence is a motherhood statement, but depending on where you are, if you are a lawyer, you will take it differently. If you are accounting, I think it goes back to what our colleague shares in the very beginning. It's very much apart from monitoring in the context of auditing, it's very much related to accountability as well as ethical. So at the end of the day, no matter what framework that we put in place, at the end of the day, it's the choice of that particular person, whether you want to be part or you want to be apart from the criminal. So it's a matter of choice.
Ada case, is there any case, you don't have to mention specific, where auditor or accountant is involved, probably a slightly detailed exposition of what they were doing?
Okay, first, general involvement. Every time when you look at news that discuss about organized crime, kan? The nature of organized means they are doing it through an organized manner, or rather they have an organization. So when you talk about being organized, you need a legal advice, you need a financial advice, and accountant is one of the most popular lah. Consultant when it comes to giving advice on how to launder, or rather to layer lah. Kan? Ada cases tu, my quick answer to that ada. Real life cases that we used to share is involvement of accountant in disguising cash from drug dealing, where the money is transferred into firm's client account, and as the money get into the client's account, this layering activities is happening lah. The example that I can quote in this case, that accounting firm provide 12 different account, and through this process there are element of putting proxies, involve nominee directors, nominee shareholders, and also establishment of family trust to disguise the perpetrator, but to make sure that, but to park the money under the accountability of the proxies. So these are among the cases that we used to see. Other than that, accountants who are also company secretary, undertaking the role of company secretaries. They facilitate establishment of various chef company for one perpetrator. So often that we see when we look at the organized crime activities, when we investigate further, we found out that the criminal has so many companies, and those many companies are established by one company secretaries. That company secretary is also accountant. So those are among the classic examples lah that we used to see in organised crime.
Okay, ada lagi soalan?